Yo, what's going on, you guys? Tucker with a brand new video for you guys today. We're doing a buy or bust for a Moonstone over here. The brand new card coming out on Tuesday. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Moonstone is the brand new card coming out on Tuesday that has the ability ongoing, has the effects of your 1, 2s, and 3 cost cards here. So it's going to be a single lane ongoing ability, which you'll be able to see here on screen. And she's really interesting. I think it's going to be a kind of new, not necessarily like an onslaught, it's like a targeted kind of onslaught situation here with Moonstone. Very excited to see what all she brings to the table. But let's go ahead and talk about some key synergies for Moonstone as we start right into it. So one of the first synergies I was thinking, of course, is going to be Mystique. The cool thing about Mystique is Mystique's a 3 cost and can copy any ongoing ability as long as it was the last card you played. So using this with Moonstone, Moonstone in that sense can copy any ongoing ability. If you do have Mystique on the board, also can work with Patriot as like potentially an alternate to Mystique or hand in hand with Mystique. So you're going to have some pretty cool options there if you're wanting to do some maybe classic old school Patriot kind of stuff is where my head went originally there. And also with Ravonna, you can use this in like a tribunal kind of list, maybe even if you don't have like a Mr. Negative as a Mr. Negative enabler because it works with the Mystiques. It would work with the Ironmans. It would work with the Gores on Ravonna, not Moon Girl or Moonstone herself, but Moonstone enabling Ravonna like a secondary Mystique in that situation. But this is an ongoing card, so of course it's going to have a lot of ongoing counters. The main ones I was thinking of course, are going to be Enchantress because it targets the entire lane. So any ongoing card that Moonstone may have been boosting also gets its ability removed by Enchantress. Of course, you also have Rogue. Rogue can target either Moonstone in that lane or the other ongoing cards to remove that from enabling Moonstone to be able to add that extra value of ongoing power. And then, of course, Echo. Echo, if you play Moonstone onto an Echo, it does remove the ongoing ability of cards played onto Echo. You could have Red Guardian in here, but you're not really, I don't think, playing Moonstone by herself to really get hit by the Red Guardian, but Red Guardian is also just another option. But let's talk about the good for this card and the bad for this card as well. The good, what I was really thinking about first was it's kind of similar to Mystique. That's why I did have Mystique as a key synergy. The good thing is it doesn't have to have an on reveal. Like your Mystique has to on reveal to copy the ongoing ability, where Moonstone you can just play onto the lane and it has the ongoing ability, but of course, you know, it's just 1, 2s, and 3 costs. So Mystique in the other sense, of course, can copy any ongoing, but this is like a small ball kind of Mystique in a way is what I was thinking with it. Also, it has a solid base power. It's a 4-6, so even if it doesn't have an ongoing ability, it's still a 4-6 power overall, which isn't the premium stat we're seeing now with like a 4-7 when it comes to our 4 costs, but it's still pretty decent. And the energy cheat enabler, I'm thinking kind of with the Ravonna kind of situation there. Even if you have maybe a Zabu to get her out early to be able to enable some stuff later down the lane, like later down the road. I was thinking of Moonstone kind of with that situation there. And then it's flexible in a bunch of different like ongoing type of shells is what I'm thinking too. So it doesn't have to be just a single ongoing list. It could be Affliction ongoing. It could be a Zoo kind of style or the Patriot kind of style stuff. And then, of course, the bad when it comes to this card, it's a 4 cost. So it is going to take up a turn at the end of the game or in the middle end of the game since you have to play it on 4 to be able to get value unless you cheat her out with Zabu. So you have to kind of keep that in mind prospectively. It's a single lane ability like Onslaught opposed to global like potentially Mystique. Or potentially, you know, Patriot is a global, Blue Marvel's global. So just thinking about that is a single lane function. It's a little niche because it has to have ongoing cards. Like you have to have those as the like enablers there. You can do it in lists that have, you know, ongoing and on reveals, but you probably aren't going to get the same amount of value. And it is still limited to 1, 2s, and 3 cost cards, unlike Mystique, which you can copy any. Of course, you do have to have the on reveal for Mystique to work in that sense. But that's kind of just where my head's at. But let's go ahead and talk about the floor and the ceiling for this card as well. So starting off with the ceiling, best case scenario, you can play this out on curve or on the end of the game with 2 or 3 ongoing cards in the same lane. So you have the 4-6 stat line of Moonstone plus additional ongoing abilities of those 2 or 3 cards. So you're having those, if it's an Ant-Man, Ant-Man's getting +4, Moonstone's getting +4. You have Mojo, Mojo's getting +6, Moonstone's getting +6. So you have those options going. So you have 2 different cards that are giving those bonuses or getting those bonuses as well. Of course, Low end, you don't have any ongoing cards. You play Moonstone. She's just a 4/6. She just sits there on the board. She's a 6-powered card right then and there. I'm thinking most case scenarios, you're going to probably have at least one card that has an ongoing ability, get the Moonstone value, which is still decent. One card getting a buff is still solid. That's just kind of middle of the pack. Maybe it's 2, but I'm saying more like 1 opposed to 2 because your opponent probably knows kind of what you're setting up and stuff. But let's go ahead and jump into a couple decks we brewed. I kind of net decked one of them, and then I kind of tried to brew a little bit with the others. Maybe I net decked 2. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We, of course, have a Patriot list, which is Patriot's Moon. So you have Patriot, you have Mystique, you have Dazzler, you have Ant-Man. Those are 3 to 4 cards that can get the buffs from Moonstone itself, enabling you to have duplicates there. Of course, you can hide your Patriot behind your Invisible Woman and then play your Moonstone. And then you could even play like a Mystique, or you go Patriot, Mystique into a Moonstone, and then you also will have those enabling. Meaning, if you did go Patriot, Mystique, Moonstone, you would get the +2 on Patriot, the +2 on Mystique, and then you would get +4 with Moonstone for all of your cards that have no abilities, which could be a really good way to go if you would like to do it that way. Also, Dazzler, copying that ability with Moonstone is also really solid itself. The next deck we have over here is going to be the Living Moon. So it's going to be a Living Tribunal Shell. I do have Zabu to try and cheat out either Ironlat or Moonstone early. Of course, this is going to be a bit more boring, and you're really leaning heavily into the Tribunal aspect of this. But if you do have maybe an Iron Man on one lane, a Mystique on another lane, you could play bigger cards into Iron Man and just play Moonstone onto your Mystique lane, and then you would get that ongoing power of double in this location for 2 cards. So instead of it just being 12 power, it would be 24 power with Mystique and Moonstone. So that's kind of where my head went there. You also have the Ant-Man value. You have some Jubilee synergy with Ravonna as well. Iron Man, Mystique work with Ravonna. So you have a couple different ways you can kind of go about with this list. And then, of course, you have the Spectrum, Jean Grey, Cosmo ongoing lists that you've been seeing, maybe not as now recently. You've seen it with Speed. You've seen it with Captain America. You've seen it with Punisher. You have a bunch of different ongoing abilities here. You can do with Ant-Man, Captain America, Mojo. Ebony Maw really can't do anything with Moonstone there, but it's kind of big power to go with the War Machine aspect of it. You have Speed with Moonstone, can work really well. If you have Luke Cage, U.S. Agent with Moonstone, means you're afflicting 4, 5, and 6 cost cards with -8 power because it copies the ability of U.S. Agent, which is incredible. So I was thinking of some just different options there, but that's going to be the general summary of these decks we have. All these deck codes will be down in the description below. Next, we're going to be talking about the good old Spotlight Cash we have this week, which, by the way, is 3 Series 5 cards. You have Black Swan, you have Nocturne, and you have Moonstone. So more often than not, this is a good week to invest your keys because they're all Series 5 cards. But I would say Black Swan is a little bit niche at the moment just because you're using it. It's only with 1 cost cards. But if you're missing Black Swan, this is a season pass card. It's her 2nd time back in Spotlights. I'm a huge fan of Black Swan. Nocturne is a first time she's been back in Spotlight since her release. So if you're missing Nocturne, of course, she's not a 3/5 anymore. She's a 3/4. So it's not as crazy flexible as maybe you are liking a Rocket and Groot now. More in that slot than the Nocturne. But it's still in a pretty flexible spot. I would say overall this week is a solid week to open. Not a huge fan of the variants. I do think Nocturne is still flexible. Black Swan still is solid, even though she is niche, I was saying. But if you do invest in Black Swan, we do have a pretty big bounce season coming in February, especially if you look at Red Wing and you look at Joaquin Torres and their abilities. I would say Black Swan is a very smart choice to invest for the future. And I think this week as a whole is a solid week to open because it is all Series 5 cards. Even though Moonstone is going to be more niche to ongoing stuff, I still think this card is going to have value, especially as more low-cost ongoing cards come out into the game. This card will continue to prosper. So keeping that in mind, the variants may not be the best. I love the Moonstone variant. The Black Swan, not so much. The Nocturne's okay, but I think it is a pretty solid week to open overall. Now, going off of that, let's talk about what I've seen the community talk about. Moonstone, of course, has the ongoing ability, has the ongoing effects of your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here. It's going to be a decently strong card in its shells, where you're using the 1, 2s, and 3s that are, of course, that are ongoing. getting that value there, it's going to be pretty decent. Like, it's going to be strong, decent. Not like strong as in like Wiccan strong, like I would say. Or maybe an OP kind of strong. But it's going to be a solid ability. It's pretty not flexible because you have to have the ongoing shells to enable it. I don't really think this card gets adjusted. Maybe they give her extra power, or maybe they decrease her cost in the future. I don't know, because I'm on the same page when it comes to the community's thoughts on this card. I think it's going to be like fun, and I think it's going to add a bunch of value to some of these mid-range kind of ongoing shells, or maybe create some new ongoing shells, which would be really cool. But it's not the most crazy and not the most flashy card, but I do think this is a pretty solid card. And I do have this as a card you should be buying. I think you should open Spotlights this week, especially if you're missing at least one of the Series 5 cards that are in Spotlights this week. I think this is a smart investment for you. And as always, we do have the final reminders. Wait a few days. If you guys are not sold on Moonstone, you do not have to get her day one, okay? You do not have to get her day one. It is totally okay to wait. Totally okay to wait. Wait to see what other people make content on this card, what other people say. Totally feel free to do that. I'm wrong about cards. The community is wrong about cards. It happens. We just don't know how they work in game. So it'll be interesting to see how the meta shapes up. This is also going to be releasing on a patch day and an OTA week. So keep that in mind too, as cards might be getting adjusted on that Thursday. Maybe waiting until after Thursday to see if this is the right card for you. Prioritize your resources. Prioritize your Spotlight keys. The patch should be out on this day, so do not open caches until the patch is live either, because then you have the opportunity to potentially get 2K collector's tokens instead of 1K, even though that's not what you want from your duplicate. But that extra 1K does go a longer way, so keep that in mind. And good cards get nerfed all the time, bad cards get buffed. It's just the nature of this game until something changes. But I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you guys stuck around to the very end, let me know down below. Will you guys be getting Moonstone? What are you guys going to be playing her in? Until the next time, you guys have a good one, and I will see you next week. God bless, and Tucker out.